Welcome to the DMF. I am your host, Justin Yachts, and today is part 2 of my interview with Jessica Porter. As I said, she is an actor, she is a hypnotherapist, she is a comedian, she is a writer. Enjoy. Man, it's fascinating. One thing I'm curious, Jerry Klein, who trained you, did you ever
Kind.
talk to
No
Kind?
L, kind. Yeah.
Okay, Kind. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Jerry Kind. So he spells it with a Gerry.
Yes.
Correct. He what have you talked to him a little bit about the hypnosis for actors? Like what did he think of it?
He passed away a couple years ago, maybe right before the pandemic. And I wasn't in touch with him. It's funny because his course was very succinct and took a finite amount of time. I didn't bond with him as a person like you do sometimes teachers, and not because he wasn't a very affable dude. I really liked Jerry Kind. He had like, I called him like a used car salesman with a heart of gold. And what I mean by that is he kind of was like, Jerry Kind, but he was a sort of an enlightened being. He was full of unconditional love and full of healing energy. But after I trained with him, I just sort of like, it was in Florida. I sort of like toddled up to Maine and started my own practice. And it was before the internet. I mean, not technically, but it was before we were all online all the time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I felt able to reach out to him. There wasn't social media to follow him on. It was completely different time. So it's funny that you should ask that, because I didn't stay in touch with him. And yet I just progressed in my own way as a hypnotist.
What do you think he would think of it? Would he be delighted, or would he be like, you're playing with fire here?
No, he was a very generous dude in terms of hypnosis. He was very enthusiastic. Hypnotists, as much as the word itself is shrouded in kind of like weirdness and mystery, I remember when I first became a hypnotist, I went to a convention of the National Guild of Hypnotists in Nashua, New Hampshire. And I remember going and thinking like, these are the happiest people I've ever seen. I mean, when you understand fully that the subconscious mind is a healing machine and it wants nothing more than for you to feel better and better and better, and you have the tools to open that in other people, why wouldn't you be happy? Exactly. You can, by definition, sort of heal yourself if you need to. And I don't mean heal like, whoa, but you can set up the environment for another person to live a better life. And Jerry was one of those people. He was very enthusiastic and generous about hypnosis. And I think he would think it was cool. I think he would think it was cool. Yeah.
One thing you talk about in the book, progressive relaxation, rapid induction, instantaneous. Now, progressive relaxation is basically what you're doing in the audios. Yeah. Rapid induction, is that like if you put somebody under and then you went like that or something, to knock them out?
Yeah, there are different types of rapid inductions, like the Elman induction, where you imagine your eyes won't open. I do this a bit, and then you wiggle your eyebrows. And then Dave Elman would then have you open your eyes and close your eyes. And every time you closed your eyes, you would take yourself 10 times deeper.
Yeah, that's what Rick Smith and Paul McKenna I've talked about when they do it. Is it's like you're gonna open. Yeah, he'll have you open them up and then close them back down again. And then when you close them back down, they're just gonna be like deeper. Sealed shut.
Right.
Whereas you have it shut, and then you have them, wiggle the eyebrows.
Wiggle your eyebrows. I mean, either way, what you're doing is like attaching to the imagination and bypassing the critical faculty. But yeah, rapid inductions are just based on the idea that you can be in a full-blown trance without being that relaxed at all. I mean, if you're rolled in on a stretcher after being, God forbid, shot in the arm in a gangland shooting, you're in a full-blown hypnotic trance, but you're in a lot of pain at the same time. Like shock is a hypnotic trance. And that's what they discovered with rapid inductions. It's like, ooh, maybe I don't need the person to be like conked out to do hypnosis. And we ourselves are examples of that. I mean, when we're acting, we're in a hypnotic trance and we're not like laid out on a couch, fully relaxed.
Yeah. What is an instant? I'm still confused about instantaneous. What is that exactly?
Well, the pandemic was kind of an instantaneous induction. When someone dies, it's an instantaneous induction. When Donald Trump like issues a tweet, it's an instantaneous induction, you know, like when the Pope blesses somebody, it's an instantaneous induction.
Yeah.
So there are things that are just like, boom, the game has changed. When Will Smith slapped Chris Rock, that was an instantaneous induction. The entire room reorganized itself in that moment. In that moment,
and at a point,
in a trance, the whole world was in a trance.
After 30 years of being this sober, clean, the perfect human being, always nice, he just loses it at that point, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. So your expectation was here, and then he went and did something that was totally a U-turn away from it. Fast, violent.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he was in a trance. I don't think I don't know if, do you think he was controlled?
Well, I think his rage was triggered, and yeah, he didn't know how to handle it. And 9/11, instantaneous induction.
Yeah.
Death of the Queen, instantaneous induction.
Yeah.
But there are, I mean, you know, the old timey, not even, but evangelical preachers who do like heal. That's instantaneous induction.
Or like what they would do back in the day to get the kid to cry. They'd be like, okay, your mother just died. And he'd be like, shoot the scene. He's like, we'll tell him afterwards.
Or like when Jimmy Kimmel does a whole thing every day. I mean, every year about Halloween candy, he gets parents to tell their kids that they ate all their Halloween candy.
Oh, yeah.
It's so cruel. It's like the cruelest thing in the world, where it's just like, hey, sorry, Billy, we stayed up late and ate your candy, and the kids just like, they just dissolve in tears.
Because they don't have that, critical thinking of like, where it's like, oh, he's just joking. But it's like, if you tell us that, okay.
Right.
Big deal.
Right.
Which I think is why it's very hard to do instantaneous. It has to be somebody died, something shocking. It can't just be something simple, because it won't go past the critical thinking.
Correct. They usually involve the element of surprise, big time.
Yeah.
And someone, seduction, depending, like pornography. It doesn't take much for someone to be in a completely different state of mind, just seeing an image.
Or you go up to somebody and say, okay, I'm going to give you $1 million to just shake my hand or something. That would be an induction of,
Yeah. No,
if they first, they would not believe it, and then you'd have to, once they realized it.
Right. And advertisers are constantly trying to develop instantaneous inductions because they only have so much time with your attention. So you want to make it as like
Instagram. That's trying to put you in an induction to just keep scrolling.
Well, it's like social media itself. I'm sure, I don't like social media, so I don't do it, but induces a trance state. I'm sure many people who like it have like developed an alpha wave or something with doing it, but then each individual post is basically attempting a hypnotic induction.
Yeah.
Whether they know it or not.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah.
Because you want to capture attention. You want to get into someone's, you want to move somebody, whether you know it or not. I mean, our egos are, that's what I don't like about social media. It's just like, I don't want to see.
It's designed to just breathe so many different things, but it's designed to keep you on there. It's very hard to like just stop it, get away from it. This is like, you can get so sucked in, and it just becomes, your life becomes watching somebody else.
It's like, oh, so and so.
I feel very grateful that it actually gives me anxiety. Like I feel repelled by it. And I'm very grateful for that because I have enough of an addictive personality that if I liked it, I could waste 4 hours, but it grosses me out so deeply. And I mean, like, ugh. And I don't mean grosses me out like I'm judging. I mean, my gut just goes, no, because I spent, before the internet came along, and specifically before social media, so that we're talking like 2006 and 7 that Facebook came around. I'd spent my 20s and my 30s going to 12-step meetings, meditating, eating brown rice. Like every single thing I was doing was about ego deflation. Now, there's no virtue in that. I did that because I had an eating disorder and I was in a lot of pain. So that was the cure. And I was into ego deflation, which means your soul expands and you start to like learn some old timey shit that the Buddhists, know. And but you're it's about letting go and letting go and letting go. And then the internet came along and said, oh, no. We don't want you to let go. We want your ego. We want it 24/7, and we're going to reproduce it a billion times. Yeah. And it was like
my favorite thing. Actors put up booked it or whatever on their Facebook thing, and it's just like, it's very easy to have a reaction to either one of those. Be like, oh, this hell with them, or no, I'm happy for him, or it's just it's designed to provoke a response.
Right. And not only is the person posting acting from their own ego, because we all feel the pressure now to like, we don't exist unless we exist online. As you said, it also provokes like an ego response in us. And it's just, I find it suffocating and exhausting because we exist beyond that. When the part of us that exists beyond that is so much better and stronger and more beautiful and eternal and connected and full of light. And the fact that we're reducing ourselves all day, every day to just the shittiest little curated versions of ourselves. And as a hypnotherapist, as a stand-up, as someone who does a podcast myself called Sleep Wave, everyone listen and help people go to sleep. Like I need to use social media, but I don't.
You don't want to be stuck. You want to get in and get out.
Yeah,
I think it's so hard.
And I wouldn't be surprised if people look at my social media and be like, ugh, I thought I liked her, now I hate her. It's so sad. So sad.
I know. Well, it's like I was like, oh, she doesn't like so and so. Well, that's it.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's really scary when you really love people, but on social media you start liking them less. That saddens me so deeply.
Yeah. Or you'll like them, and then all of a sudden you read on social media, it's like your whole perception change. Like, look at Will Smith.
Yeah.
His whole life has changed because he did one thing. No one is ever gonna like live that down. It's like he couldn't.
I know he lost me in that moment. He lost me.
I was upset. I was like, what is this? I'm like, why isn't there security here?
Yeah, and it wasn't just so much like, ooh, I don't want to see you in a movie anymore. It was like, it was disturbing. It was repellent. It wasn't a decision. And then that was a hypnotic induction. It was a hypnotic induction. Like he sent a message. He shocked us, and then he sent a message, and the message was, I'm a big scary asshole. And it's like, ooh, okay, like message received.
Yeah, and then you saw other people getting attacked because you had the copycat. Because once you put that out there, it's the same thing with Donald Trump becoming president. You're going to see other businessmen try to do it. It starts, it starts a thing. It starts a chain reaction.
Well, and with that, it's not just businessmen. I mean, we've had businessmen before, but buffoons, narcissists.
We're gonna have people. We're gonna have people that like know nothing about policy and just like, I just want it for power. Yeah. This is an achievement. Yeah. This is the next step. This is the closest I could come to becoming a king.
Yeah,
which is what a lot of them want. Is a king or a god. Yeah, the world. So it's like I'm gonna induce the weak-minded. It's almost like you look at Star Wars. He says you don't need to see our paper. It's like, but they're doing that now to everybody through television, where they just watch it and just go, It's like, yeah, you're right. He's right. We shouldn't be doing this. Or, or you have the opposite effect. It's
I think
kind
you're
of
right that
creating an
Donald Trump is a really, really, I hesitate to study him hypnotically
fascinating
speaking
character.
because he's so freaks me out, but he really, really, really is an object lesson in
Yeah.
sorry, I thought I put this on um like negative, dangerous hypnosis.
Well, there's the three signs. There's narcissism, psychopathy, and then sociopathy. So sociopath, narcissist, and a psychopath. We don't know if he has. He may have all of them. I don't know. I mean, they say if you have somebody like that, you should never promote them or have them in your company because they will. It's just in them. They can't show.
Mhm, mhm.
They can't show
Yeah.
humility. They're not going to admit a mistake. It's just, and unfortunately, that mindset can allow you to just go, well, I don't care what anyone thinks. So I'm just going to destroy everything in my path
Right.
to it. It's like that film In the Company of Men with Aaron Eckhart. They find the girl who's deaf, and they're like, she's, let's make her feel good. And then at the end, you find out Aaron Eckhart is married, and this guy really liked her, and she's never going to speak to him again. And he's just been completely, and to him, it was all a power game.
Right.
It's one of the most manipulative
Yeah.
things I've ever seen. I don't think enough people know of that film, but it's like, you want to
Yeah,
see something
Neil LaBute.
really, Neil LaBute. You want to see something really, sadistic. That's probably the topper of somebody, messing with somebody just because you can. And it doesn't even reflect on you because you have another completely other life, which is kind of what is happening with social media. People get in arguments just to get in arguments. It's like, oh, I have the high ground. I don't have to actually engage with this person. So I'll just say whatever I want.
I know.
Like this, and we call them trolls, but it's like, is there somebody, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's just like maliciously sitting there, starting a fight to just sit back and watch everything burn and be like, that's a scary thought. And social media gives that it gives it a place to breed.
Right.
Where, you don't.
That's part of why I don't engage with it too. I don't have the stomach for the negativity. I just don't.
No,
it would crush me.
Somebody will say something about, oh, I didn't like that, and then they don't like it, and you just really goes back and forth until it becomes completely personal. Because it's not like in other countries, or like in Germany, you can have that fight with them about politics, but then you can go back and do it. Here, if we have the fight about politics, we'll never see each other again, or it will end in some escalation of violence where people just because there's nobody because we now have two sides that both see themselves as the right side. There's nothing in the middle to keep them to go, okay, I see your point. So just like this civil war, just breeding. And now if you don't like the news, you just go and turn into the news that you want to hear. And they'll tell you exactly what you want to hear. So there's no definitive news.
There's a great documentary called The Brainwashing of My Dad that was produced by Matthew Modine. I mean, I'm sure he wasn't in on the making of it, but he backed it. So it got
gave him money.
What? Yeah, it got some money.
Gave him money.
And it was on Hulu when I saw it, but I'm sure you can find it somewhere. It is fascinating about how we've gotten to the place that we are right now, because the GOP has had a very real strategy for a very long period of time. And the Democrats have practically no strategy, and we just reinvent the wheel every 4 years. And their strategy is draconian and patient.
Divide and conquer.
Yeah, and take
divide
over
subtly.
and start think tanks and infiltrate the college campuses and, buy up media and
distract them over here while we're doing this. You
Yeah.
know, we'll be thinking, hey, look at this while we're doing this. You
Well,
know?
and Fox News is,
Yeah.
exceedingly good at what we're talking about. It's a very, very hypnotic machine.
It's that part in Vice with Christian Bale as Dick Cheney says, well, we no longer have to do the barking anymore. We have Fox News to do that.
Wow, forgot
You know,
that.
it's like, yeah, that's how they look at it. Except
Yeah.
now you're seeing that both parties are splintering into these
Mhm.
factions because nobody agrees on that now.
Right.
So now
Right.
you have
Right.
the ones that want to go back to, well, let's go back to what we were doing with, George W. Bush. And then you have the ones that were Trump, and they're like, no, we want to do this. We want to change things, So it's like, and you're seeing it on both sides, and you're seeing it worldwide. You're seeing their version of Trump and their version of, the opposing of Trump. It's really scary how like people aren't seeing that. Like it's like it's mass. It's not just
It is. And I think what it
America.
is we're going through the first full generation of living with the internet. And it has done a number on the world. And the question is there some organic movement that we go through here and we get to an extreme that eventually becomes its opposite? And we begin to crave connection after having experimented with disconnection, experimented with autocracy. I mean, you look at what like Roe v. Wade, we got all the way to that place. Well, guess what? A shit ton of women are going to show up at the polls because it
I
finally
know.
got personal, And
They had a free ride to basically just take that thing, and then and that's the thing that you see with them is they're always going to overreach. It's not just Roe versus Wade. They're always going to.
yes.
They're not going to just stop here. It's like, okay, well, we got this. Now let's keep going. Let's get rid of contraception. Let's get rid of
Right.
anything.
Right. But I mean,
next thing will be porn.
It'll be interesting to see the pushback. But I really do think that, if you think of 2000 as the year that we began to all have email and all be online and, like this conversion, and we're 22 years in, and that explains in some ways the level of the discourse. Like our entire cultural discourse almost feels like it's coming through a 22-year-old. Like it's very black and white thinking, very like unforgiving, very righteous, and all the things I thought at 22 too, but I didn't have the internet to like weaponize my opinion. So but as those 22-year-olds become 32 and 42-year-olds, and we still have the same set of tools, it'll be really interesting to see where this goes, because I don't actually believe we're on the edge of anything but climate catastrophe. Like I do believe that that's like resources are finite, but socially, you put 100 people in the room and they're more likely to be peaceful than to be violent. Because violence only lasts so long. Then what do you do?
Yeah.
Then the kids still have to go to school. You still have a minivan. You know what I mean? Like, and you now have a world with between 7 and 8 billion people, and several billion of them have homes and phones and TVs and are locked in and are literate and educated. We've never, ever got to this place before. So is the whole thing just going to like curdle on a dime? No,
do you think it's going to
invested in our lives?
Do you think it's going to stunt emotional growth? Do you think that's what we're also seeing?
I don't know. I mean, yes, but I'm a woman, and I know it's like gender is a concept now, but it's not. It's not. Okay. I'm a woman, and women reproduce the next generation, and women are designed to stare into the eyes of a baby at their breast and feel all the happy chemicals that come from that as the baby feels all the happy chemicals, and to set up empathy between your nervous system and that other person's nervous system. We're designed to do that. So with every generation, we have a fucking shot because it starts again.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. And
And
now that we
women
have a
are
generation growing
incredibly emotional.
that are growing up through this war zone of the internet and have grown up with it, maybe they've seen the error of their ways. The same way, you know,
I
the next generation. Yeah.
I mean, look, the people who developed all the tech don't give their kids cell phones. You know,
Yeah.
the people who
Yeah,
develop
you've
all the
seen that.
tech send their kids to like Waldorf schools. They don't read till they're 7, you know, like.
Yeah. Steve Jobs didn't want, you know, there was no computer or television or any electricity in the room.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that people will have this huge mass movement of getting rid of technology, but I think
No.
our adolescent intoxication with it, and I don't mean that to blame the youngins. I mean, all of us are 22 when it comes to the internet. All of us are in our adolescence with it, the whole world. So are we going to burn through some of that? Hopefully. And just be like, I use this as a tool. This is my tool, and I have a life at the same time. And having a life means human wellness, and human wellness means getting outside, human contact, eating decent food, reflecting on my own internal world. That's what it is to be well, and not being online all day. I hope we come to some of that balance.
I got a question. Like with your hypnosis, how could you create a hypnosis to deal with this? I'm very sensitive. So if I hear a noise in the other room, sometimes that will like just draw me. I have to go and like drown it out with other noise. How would I go? How would I go about doing that? Also, when I meditate, sometimes I find the tendency to scratch myself. Not always, but it's like, I feel like sometimes it's preventing me from getting further.
First of all, I would just encourage you to have as light a touch as possible around that, like no judgment, no, like sometimes I can sit through an itch when I meditate and sometimes I can't, and it just doesn't matter. That's why we call them a practice. You know, meditation is not walking down a singular road getting to a destination. It's showing
up. So
everybody
has this. Okay.
Yeah, and you show up at the same place on the road every time. I mean, like, in other words, I've meditated for 30 something years, and I don't, when I close my eyes, go half a mile down the road instantly. I still have to get, go through the same gate. And here's my cat. And
I saw the cat on social media. What's the name of the cat?
This is Ziggy. 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 He's like a panther. So, but within the hypnosis that you've experienced on the Hypnosis for Actors website, there is that suggestion that the sounds going on around you, you invite them to actually come in and take you deeper instead of trying to push them away. And for most people, that's a very effective workaround.
But you talked about that with the pregnancies that you would have to tell them, be like, okay, you're hearing the woman screaming, and it's like every scream is going to induce you.
Yeah, like I've worked with women in hospitals doing hypnobirthing, and they are trained to be in profound relaxation during the birth. Now, that doesn't mean there is no discomfort or no work, but it's just a much more relaxed version of it. And you'll be in a hospital, and 2 rooms down, someone is yelling out of pain. And you would think that that would completely screw up woman number 1. But if you say to her, the sounds of that other woman are taking you deeper and deeper and deeper, then believe me, a woman giving birth is going to take that suggestion, because freaking out is going to be a waste of energy, make her afraid. So you just integrate the sound of the baby monitor, the fetal monitor, you integrate the sound of the nurses coming in, so that she can go deeper and deeper into her world.
You mentioned the panic attack. I mean, Lori Wyman talked about that, how she would have, she kind of studied stuff like this so that she could help actors who would come in like, it's like, yeah, we can't do the scene with this. It's all we're gonna see.
Right,
is the
right,
paper. It's like,
right.
next. It's like you can't do anything with that.
Yeah, I talk in the class about the adrenaline wave, and
Yeah.
that it's really natural to have an adrenaline wave when you go in for an audition or before shooting a scene or before getting on stage. It's the most natural thing in the world to have that. But can you, instead of attaching to it and amping it up, just know it's there, feel it, oh, here it is, here it is, here it is,
Yeah.
and relax into it. And if you can relax into the adrenaline wave, it passes. And then you're in the scene doing your work.
Okay, that about does it for this week's episode. I want to thank Jessica Porter. I hope you enjoyed it. I suggest you check out her book, Unlock Your Power, A Guide to Self-Hypnosis for Actors. Also, check out Sleepwave. Also, go to her website, hypnosisforactors.com. As always, you can find me at Justin Yachts, and I will see you next time on the DMF.